The story starts with Hutch Mansell, a man interrogated by cops. Although bloodied with wounds, he lights a cigarette, feeds a cat, and remains calm. Curious, the cops ask him who the heck he is, and he tells them that he is nobody. Weeks before the interrogation, Hutch struggles to keep his family together. He wakes up late, misses the trash truck, and works at a boring office job. Even his relationship with his wife is cooked, since he doesn't get to clap those cheeks every once in a while. The monotonous routine continues for weeks until one Monday night, he goes to check up on his kids to see if they are asleep. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise downstairs and sees burglars entering his house from the garage. So he grabs a golf stick and tries calling the cops, but they catch him and threaten him with a gun. One of the burglars, a female, asks for his cash.
Your money. Cash. Now!
And he points to a bowl with dollar notes, so she rakes them. She also demands his card, but Hutch can't hand it over since he uses a debit card. She takes his watch, and in the process, he sees a cross tattoo on her wrist.
Take it.
As they try to collect his ring, Blake jumps the male burglar, and the female leaves Hutch to threaten the boy to get off him, giving Hutch enough room to take a swing at her, but he stops midway and orders Blake to let go of the man. Confused but obedient, Blake does as he is told, but the man retaliates by punching him. Hutch shouts at him, and seeing that Becca, another house member, is awake, the burglars quickly take their exit.
Baby, let's go!
You picked the wrong fucking house.
Hutch then offers Blake a hand, but the boy rejects it and distances himself from his father. Later that night, the police show up and Hutch regrets not being able to protect his family. He looks at a pizza box stuck between the garage door, which gave the thieves entrance into his house. The police interrogate him, asking him why he didn't take a swing at the burglars with his golf stick. But before Hutch can give an excuse, his family looks at him with disappointment.
Could have taken her, Dad.
Look, you did the right thing, Mr. Mansell.
And his son tells him he should have taken the swing. Once the cops leave, the family goes back inside to sleep, but Hutch decides to sleep in the sitting room, and his daughter, Sammy, joins him there. He then asks her if she's scared, but she says she isn't. After all, he's around. Before sleeping, Sammy tells him they need a cat, and he agrees with her. The next morning, he wakes up late and misses the garbage truck for the umpteenth time. Later, while preparing breakfast, Blake informs them that he has to report on a veteran for his history class. Hutch agrees to be interviewed, but then says it'll be a dry story.
Yeah, I was an auditor, so kind of a nobody. That makes for a pretty dry story.
So Becca suggests Blake interview her brother, Charlie, who was once in the army. Hutch also suggests Blake interview David, his grandpa, but Blake replies blandly and heads to the car. When Hutch goes out, he sees his neighbor, who talks about wishing to be robbed so that he can get some action out of the burglars. The men converse a little, and the neighbor brags about the 1972 Challenger 5.8 he inherited from his dad. A couple of minutes later, Hutch takes the bus to his office, and Charlie confronts him about the robbery incident he heard from Blake. He hands Hutch a gun and says he should keep Becca safe, but after Charlie leaves, Hutch puts it in a cereal box in his fridge. As he walks around the office, his father-in-law, Eddie, also speaks of the robbery incident.
Hey, I take it Becca called you.
She did.
And believes Hutch is the kind of guy who can't hurt anybody. Eddie then expresses his doubts about selling the factory to him, but Hutch still insists on buying it. Later in his office, he draws a tattooed logo on a document and locks his door to contact Harry, his brother, via a private communication device. They catch up on old times, and Harry, who's currently playing dead, asks Hutch why he didn't take a swing at the burglar last night.
Hadn't been shot in a long while. It was,
Surprised that word spread that fast, Hutch asks him how he heard about it, but then he narrates the scene, perfectly describing the situation, and the gun. Apparently, when he wanted to take the swing, he saw that the gun was empty, so he stopped. Hearing his reason, Harry understands him, and advises him not to do anything stupid, despite the backlash he faced. Before heading home, Hutch visits his old man at a nursing home.
what?
and makes him food. While eating, David sees through Hutch that he isn't okay, and he reminds him of who he used to be. Later, Hutch goes home and sees his family about to have dinner, but he sees his daughter looking for her kitty cat bracelet, so he asks her where she put it. The girl then tells him it was in the bowl, where the dollar notes were, and that's when he loses it and storms out of the house. He goes back to his dad's and takes the old man's FBI badge, a gun, and tells him that he has a business to settle. David agrees, and Hutch leaves to hunt down the burglars. He starts by visiting tattoo shops and showing them the diagram he drew in the office, and he is eventually directed to the right place. When he gets there, he shows them his FBI badge, but they see that it's expired and prepare to interrogate him the hard way. But one of them sees a tattoo on Hutch's hand and immediately flees, hence wordlessly passing a message to the men not to mess with Hutch. The so-called investigator then points to a tattoo and asks for directions to the people who have it, and they tell him all he needs to know. Hutch creeps into a Mexican house and attacks Luis before pointing a gun at him. He collects his watch from them and asks for his kitty cat bracelet, but Luis denies knowing what he's talking about, so Hutch threatens to shoot him. The couple pleads to do anything, but Hutch doesn't listen to them, and suddenly, he hears the cry of their baby in the room. So he spares them and takes out some of his anger on the wall outside their residence. So on his way home, a group of drunken Russian thugs crash their vehicle and take the bus he is on. Hutch watches as they bully the passengers and harass a young lady, so he leaves his seat as if he's excusing himself and closes the bus driver out of the vehicle. Relieved to finally have worthy targets, he calls for their attention, empties his gun, and tells them he'll mess them up. They laugh at him and get a swing on him, but he retaliates, and the place gets messy. They land some hits, but he does a ton of damage to them, and one of them retaliates by stabbing him with a knife, and from that moment, he unleashes his rage on them with the weapon, but they manage to throw him off the bus. Despite his injuries, Hutch goes back to the bus, rescues the girl, and continues the beatdown. But the Russian who stabbed Hutch earlier tries to use his gun, so Hutch uses a bus handle and hits him on the throat. As a result, the man struggles to catch his breath, so Hutch assists him by inserting a straw in his throat. He leaves the bus and apologizes to the driver for the mess he made before walking back home.
Sorry about the mess.
He gets home late that night and finds Becca up and worried. With a glance, Becca sees that he got himself in trouble, so she helps him clean up, and while at it, he tells her he misses her and how he hasn't smashed her kitty cat. Then he reminds her of who they used to be and goes to sleep. That night, Becca removes the pillows she used to separate them and finally closes the distance between them. That same night, Yulian Kuznetsov, a flamboyant and ruthless mafia boss, enters one of his clubs and celebrates with his people. He then goes to make a deal with another Russian businessman, but on his way, a bouncer obstructs him, and despite holding a grudge, he proceeds to discuss with his client. They make an offer, but he shows them he's the boss by brutally finishing off the bouncer who obstructed him earlier. They accept his terms, but he gets a phone call about his brother, Teddy, in the hospital, and quickly goes to check on him. After seeing the crippled state he is in, Yulian angrily goes to the other ward and tortures Teddy's escort to find out who put them in such a poor state, so one of them hands him a card. The following day, Hutch prepares breakfast for his family, and Blake learns that he had gotten into a fight. Hutch then thanks him for the attempt he made on the burglars, and they get closer as a family. At some point, the landline rings, and Hutch answers it, and sees it's Harry on the line. Harry informs him that one of the men he injured last night was Yulian Kuznetsov's brother, a dangerous individual that shouldn't be messed with, but Hutch hangs up the call.
One of those guys was the brother of Yulian Kuznetsov. And you don't want to fuck with him, Hutch. I'm serious. Ask the barber, he knows.
and tells the house he'll make lasagna for them for dinner. At work, Harry reminds him to ask the barber for more info about Julian, so Hutch leaves work and goes to meet him. At the shop, the man hands Hutch a file on Julian and tells Hutch that Julian is a connected, funded sociopath who collects art as a hobby, with a painting worth 8 to 9 figures. During that period, Julian meets a hacker to find out information about Hutch, and based on her findings, she sees that he's just a regular guy. But after being threatened by Julian to lose her job, she contacts a colleague at the Pentagon and blackmails him into giving her everything they have on Hutch. In the meantime, the barber reveals Julian to be a babysitter of Obshak.
That's hundreds of millions of dollars in cash, perpetually on the move. And Julian's the current babysitter.
A heavily funded organization of Russian mobs that move hundreds of millions of dollars. The barber believes Julian can be reasoned with, and he's trying to tie loose ends. Meanwhile, as soon as the hacker gets information on Hutch, she packs up her things and freely gives Julian all the details he needs to know and quits her job. Later that night, Hutch prepares lasagna for his family and suggests they spend their summer in Italy. As the family bonds, he notices some men outside their home, so he takes his family to the basement. He kisses his wife, but before he shuts the door, he tells her not to call 911 no matter what. He then turns off the house light, and the men troop in to eliminate him. But one by one, he takes them out without using guns, just kitchen utensils. After maiming a good amount, they take him down with a taser, cuff him, and drive off with him. After some time, Hutch wakes up in the trunk, with his hands cuffed behind his back, and breaks his thumb to slip the cuff off his hand. He then opens the trunk, and once he sees that they do not have any escort, he takes out the fire extinguisher and sprays it into the main vehicle, clouding their vision. Immediately, the driver swerves and crashes into a pole, causing the vehicle to flip over. Despite the fatal accident, Hutch crawls out and speaks to Julian's assistant, a black Russian. He opens up to the man that he is nobody, a hitman from the FBI. But before he can complete his tale, the Russian passes on. As Hutch runs home, he phones David and briefs him about the trouble heading his way. When he gets home, he checks the fallen Russians to be where he left them and quickly showers to get all the bloodstains off his body. After, he opens the basement and takes his family into their car. Left in the dark, Becca asks him to tell her what's going on, and he promises to do so when the time is right. Before driving off, she tells him to make sure he comes back so that they can deal with their case.
I know your boss sent you here, but you gotta know when to say no.
Left alone, Hutch takes his time in the house, retrieving his gold bars and having a glass of wine. He lines the men on his couch and narrates how he didn't kill Alan, his last target, back when he was still a hitman. A year later, when he checked on Alan, he saw the beautiful family the man had that he became envious of, so he decided to quit his job to start a family. Lost in his narration, Hutch didn't realize when the Russians died.
So I told my bosses I was out of the game. They were not happy to hear it. They didn't believe I could do it.
And when he looks back at them, he sees the kitty cat bracelet under the chair. He calls his quiet life a facade that lasted longer than he had expected, and then burns down the house on the way out. He takes his family photo, but just as he's about to make a getaway, he looks at his neighbor's Challenger and uses it to get out of the neighborhood. That same night, the Russians go to attack David in the nursing home, but he feeds them bullets instead. Hutch, on the other hand, gives the gold bars to Eddie as the amount for the factory. Eddie immediately takes the offer, but Charlie refuses and even tries to hit Hutch. However, his brother-in-law puts him in his place and calms him down.
Breathe deep, okay? There you go. That's it.
But what am I gonna do?
The next night, Julian learns of his men's death and how they had failed to capture Hutch. The following day, Hutch prepares lots of booby traps, and Harry angrily calls him after learning that the Russians came after their dad.
Hey.
Dude, with the Russians? Classic, Hutch.
He blames Hutch for his carelessness, but Hutch tells him he still has a plan. Harry says he won't come out of hiding to save him. After preparing the traps, Hutch goes to the Obshok and single-handedly eliminates the Russians. He then takes one of Julian's art pieces and burns the whole place down. Afterwards, he attends Julian's show at his club, and the Russian boss finds it funny that his prey has the balls to show up. Hutch then reveals a bomb tied to his finger and demands a private meeting with Julian. Julian grants his request, and Hutch tells him that they can have a fresh start at life, revealing he has burned down the Obshok.
Wait, rebuild?
I burned it. All of it.
What? Oh.
Everything you have. Had.
Pissed, Julian yells at Hutch, but Hutch reminds him that he crossed the line by coming after his family. He advises Julian to let everything pass under the bridge, calling it even, and tells him to stay away from him.
This doesn't make us even, because after all, you came to my house, which you know you don't f***ing do!
Hutch then leaves the club and goes to his car, but as soon as he gets into it, he crosses his fingers while silently praying. But as expected, Julian dashes out of the bar and looks for him, so Hutch starts his vehicle and zooms off. They immediately chase after him and start shooting at him, so he takes an alleyway to get away from them. But they ram into him and spray the poor challenger with bullets. Hutch retaliates by shooting and driving off, getting rid of one of the vehicles in the process. He lures the Russians into the factory and takes out the painting, but they corner him, and he gets shot in the shoulder. As they close in on him, Harry reveals himself through the window and snipes them down one by one. David also shows up and creates cover for Hutch to get into the building. Once inside, David tells Hutch how he's tried to move on after his retirement, but nothing excites him more than fighting bad guys. The duo aim at the entrance and shoot at the Russians pouring in, and as soon as the men find their way inside, they move to another section. Here, the men are welcomed with a grenade. Each compartment of the rooms is set up with booby traps, drastically taking out a lot of the men. Harry welcomes some of them with bullets, and as they struggle to get him off his feet, he wallpapers their brain matter. One of Julian's men gets thrown into another room. Harry sends him flying to meet David and Hutch. The geezer loves his shotgun, as he makes holes out of the men faster than they can react. The men find their way to Hutch's former office, and he takes some of them down with traps. He then finds his way to his fridge to use the gun Charlie gave him to take down the remaining ones in the room. Others pour into the main factory room, but David, Harry, and Hutch take them down with traps and guns. Things almost go as planned, but Julian shows up and shoots Harry in the arm, so the others take cover and fire back. Unfortunately for them, they run out of bullets, so Julian slowly approaches them and yells at Hutch for not stealing the Obshok. He believes that they could have found a way out, but burning the place down was a very stupid move. With that, Julian vows to make sure Hutch's family pays the price. He continues shooting at them, but Hutch takes out the bomb he threatened Julian with earlier and ties it to a bulletproof glass frame. He then runs toward Julian with the explosives wire tied to his mouth. Julian aims at him, but the glass stops the bullets, and as soon as Hutch gets close to him, he pulls the wire, triggering the explosive to go off directly on Julian's face, but he is also sent flying backward from the impact. Julian dies from the explosion, but Hutch survives thanks to sheer luck and plot armor. David and Harry have a little reunion, celebrating their win, and they leave the building, but Hutch goes to his office and leaves a voicemail for Becca, revealing who he was. He thanks her for everything so far, promises to make things right if given another chance, and tells her he loves her. He takes the piece of art and a cat and exits the building to meet the police outside. Currently, the cops interview Hutch, but they get a message on their phone ordering his release. 3 months later, Hutch and Becca check out a luxurious house, but suddenly, the house agent's phone rings multiple times, and she is told to hand Hutch the phone. He answers it, and together with his wife, they ask if the house has a basement.
A basement.
The end. In a post-credits scene, on a bus, David asks Harry why they can't fly to their current location, but Harry reminds him that they have a lot of ammunition with them. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.